Jada was 14 when she came into juvenile detention. She had a fiance who she had just met 4 months prior. She'd been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and prescribed mood-stabilizing medication, which she took only sporadically. She believed that alcohol and painkillers managed her moods best. While she was detained, one of the girls on her unit told her that her fiance had gotten another girl pregnant. Jada got incredibly upset, took a paperclip, and carved the words ugly, alone, and bitch into her leg. 2 days later, when she went to take a shower, she took an unusually long period of time. When staff went to check on her, they found her hanging. She had ripped the bottom of her t-shirt, turned it into a noose, and hung it from the shower head. So what do? Do we assign a one-to-one staff to every single youth in our facility so that there's eyes on them at every minute of every day? No. Do we put every youth in a special room that's designed for actively suicidal youth? No. That's not only unrealistic, but it could be psychologically harmful, and I would argue would probably make things worse. What we need to do is ensure that we have protective factors in place to decrease the chances that any youth in the facility will become suicidal in the first place. These are often overlooked elements, but they are effective and really fundamental if we're talking about suicide prevention. So when we talk about stress, if stress is going to push a youth over the edge, one of the best things we can do in our facilities is reduce the stress. There are some individuals in juvenile justice and within the general population who believe that if we can make our juvenile detention and juvenile correctional facilities harsh enough and punitive enough, teens will be less likely to commit crimes and they won't want to come back. They'll make sure to change their lifestyle so they don't have to come back to this unpleasant environment. Not only does the research show that this is not true, it actually shows just the opposite. We get much better outcomes for adolescents in juvenile facilities that emphasize positive relationships, education, and skill building over punishment, and the less likely they are to return. So, what we can do is help youth develop positive relationships with a diverse group of staff and a diverse group of peers. We can also help them maintain and strengthen the relationships they have with their family, other caregivers, and key members of their community. We can and we should train, encourage, and reward staff who regularly engage with youth, who develop trusting and supportive relationships with youth. We've seen in facilities listening, caring, and connecting during a card game, shooting hoops, lifting weights, just passing time on the unit. Line staff will never know the number of potentially suicidal youth who may have chosen not to take their lives because of the support or concern that they knowingly or unknowingly provided. What else can we do? We can and should keep youth busy with relevant and meaningful programming. It needs to be educational, we need to have vocational work, and we need to be creative. We know that for kids earning school credits, getting a GED, earning a high school diploma, this can not only increase their self-worth, but it can decrease their feelings of hopelessness. I've worked with several facilities who have seen dramatic changes in the moods of not only the youth, but of the staff when they've had creative programs such as gardening, welding, computer repair, auto repair, pet therapy, or even graphic design. If 63 to 92% of the youth in custody have a diagnosable mental health or substance use disorder, and these are two of the biggest risk factors for suicide, we should have an adequate number of qualified mental health professionals in our facilities that are providing quality mental health assessments, quality mental health treatment, both individual and group. There are a variety of evidence-based treatments available today that can help youth in custody learn important skills in relation to anger management, social skills, emotion regulation, as well as effective coping. Many of these programs can be provided during short-term detainment, and they are essential for youth who are confined for more than 30 days. We can and we should make our units more home-like rather than having a more correctional institutional feel. I've watched the mood and the staff change when facilities have painted the walls, either with pleasant colors or youth artwork, or if they put in comfortable chairs, something like changing the chairs to be more comfortable, having rugs or carpets to absorb the sound, or having decorations that the youth make during the holidays hanging up, these are just some possible examples. Because depending on their charges, their court date, their sentence, or their placement options, we know that some youth live in detention and correctional facilities for months or even years. Now, one of the most important things that we did when I was a psychologist in a juvenile justice facility was to increase the collaboration between juvenile justice, mental health, medical, and educational staff. We met every day, even if just briefly. We met every day to talk about which youth were on suicide precautions, which youth were struggling, which youth were getting in trouble, who was fighting, not going to school, isolating themselves. We wanted to know who was demonstrating other behaviors of concern, and most importantly, what could we do to help support them? This is essential for every facility. It is not easy. We are all busy, but this is fundamental. When we talk about preventing suicide, this is one of the key factors. And line staff. Line staff are the eyes and ears of the facility. That's who's there when youth gets a bad phone call. That's who's there when youth come back from court. That's who's there when bad news is delivered, or they don't get a visit that they expected, or there are changes to their psychotropic medication. Formal systems should be in place for line staff to communicate what they see and what they hear, as well as provide feedback regarding the dynamics on the unit. Who knows better than those individuals who are with those youth day in and day out? They make key referrals to the mental health professional. I know that as a psychologist, my suicide assessments of youth in custody I couldn't have done them as accurately if I did not have the feedback from the unit staff who were there working with those youth. We can and we should provide challenging and fun recreation and leisure activities. We know that vigorous activity can decrease depression, reduce anxiety, and help youth sleep better. So does yoga. Lots of facilities are starting to do yoga now and having great results. Basketball, video games, and cornhole can be fun for kids, but it's important for us to integrate more than just that. We need to have more team sports, and we need to have more individual activities for those youth who may not be quite as coordinated or a little bit more awkward, so that they can have good recreation and leisure time as well. We also know that there are plenty of kids who barely cracked a book when they were in the community, but once they get confined, they become avid readers or learn to read during their confinement, especially when the facility library has a diversity of appropriate material for these youth.